Ever notice how patterns kind of repeat themselves everywhere? Like you look at galaxies, you see these swirling arms, and then you look at like the tiniest atom, and there's electrons zipping around in a similar kind of way.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, isn't it? It's like the
Hmm.
universe has this underlying set of rules that it just loves to use over and over again at every level.
Right. And that's pretty much what we're diving into today, the principle of correspondence.
Exactly. And it's an idea that's been around for centuries. The ancient texts sum it up pretty nicely. As above, so below. As below, so above.
So it's like looking in a mirror. The whole universe is reflected in us, and we're reflected in it.
Yeah, you can think of it that way. The macrocosm and the microcosm always mirroring and influencing each other.
That's a pretty huge concept to wrap our heads around. So, to really get into this, we've been looking at a bunch of stuff, including a whole episode dedicated to this principle and some really important chapters from a book called the Kybalion.
Yeah, the Kybalion is a classic text when it comes to Hermetic philosophy.
Definitely. And the goal today is to really understand how this idea of interconnectedness, this principle of correspondence, can actually be useful for you listening right now.
Right, to move beyond the theory and into practical applications for your life.
Exactly. How can understanding this principle help you understand yourself, your place in the universe, and maybe even navigate the world a little better?
And maybe even grasp the very nature of reality itself. It's a big question, but that's what we're aiming for today.
All right, so let's start with something we can all relate to: patterns in nature. I'm always blown away by how similar things can look across totally different scales, like tree roots branching out underground,
Yeah, it's like they're mirroring the way our lungs branch out with all those tiny blood vessels,
or the way those huge galaxies spiral through space.
looking almost like the neural networks in our own brains.
It really does make you wonder if nature has a favorite design template. Like, is this just the most efficient way to organize complex systems?
Yeah, and that's what's so fascinating about it. It suggests there's this underlying harmony, this elegance in the way the universe structures itself, regardless of size.
And then there are these mathematical relationships, like the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio. They're everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. You see them in the spirals of seashells, the arrangement of petals in a sunflower, even the proportions of the human body.
It's like the universe has this mathematical signature that it just can't help but leave on everything.
It really does point towards a deeper order, a kind of blueprint that guides the formation of everything from tiny organisms to entire galaxies.
Okay, so we see these reflections in the physical world. But the principle of correspondence also suggests that what's going on inside us, like our thoughts and feelings, also mirrors and shapes our outer reality.
Right, and this ties into another key principle, the principle of mentalism, which basically states that the universe is fundamentally mental.
Okay, so our thoughts aren't just happening in isolation. They're somehow connected to this bigger mental fabric of the universe.
Exactly. Our individual thoughts are like these smaller currents within this vast ocean of cosmic mind, and they have the power to shape our personal experience of reality.
So, like, if someone's constantly expecting the worst, they're more likely to experience negative things.
It often seems that way, doesn't it? Their thoughts and expectations become a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. Conversely, if you cultivate a positive mindset, a belief in possibilities, you tend to attract more positive experiences.
So, it's not just about putting on a happy face and pretending everything is fine. It's about a deeper shift in our thoughts and beliefs.
Precisely. And this is where the principle of vibration comes into play. Everything in the universe, including our thoughts and emotions, vibrates at a certain frequency.
Okay, like a guitar string, right? Pluck it lightly, you get a low note. Pluck it harder, the vibration increases and the note gets higher.
Exactly. So emotions like joy and love tend to vibrate at higher frequencies, while emotions like fear and anger vibrate lower. And according to this principle, we tend to attract experiences that resonate with our dominant vibrational state.
So, if we're stuck in a low vibration of negativity and fear, we're more likely to draw in experiences that match that frequency.
Yeah, that's the idea. And the reverse is true as well. By consciously cultivating higher vibrations through positive thoughts, actions, and emotions, we can shift the entire tone of our experiences. It's about aligning ourselves with the frequencies we want to experience.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, zooming out a bit, this idea of the human body as a microcosm of the cosmos, we see this in a lot of different spiritual and philosophical traditions.
Absolutely. Ancient thinkers often saw the human being as a miniature version of the universe, with each part of our physical body corresponding to some element or force within the cosmos.
Like the heart, for example. It's often seen as analogous to the sun, right? Both radiating energy and sustaining life.
Right. Just as the sun is the heart of our solar system, providing warmth and light, the heart is the central organ that pumps life-giving blood throughout our bodies. It's the same principle at play, just at different scales.
And this mirroring isn't limited to individual organs, is it? We see similar patterns of organization in societies and even entire ecosystems.
Right. You can look at the way different groups within a society interact and see parallels to the way galaxies are organized or the way different species in an ecosystem depend on each other. It's like this fundamental principle of interconnectedness and structured order that just keeps repeating itself.
So we're seeing these reflections everywhere, from the tiniest atom to the largest galaxy, from our physical bodies to our thoughts and emotions. It's all interconnected and mirroring itself in fascinating ways.
Exactly. And that brings us to the big question. What does this mean for us? How can understanding this principle actually help us in our daily lives?
What are the practical takeaways?
Well, the most powerful implication, in my opinion, is that by consciously aligning our inner world, our thoughts, beliefs, and actions with the fundamental laws and principles of the universe, we can become more effective creators of our own reality.
So it's not just about passively observing these patterns, but actually using this understanding to shape our lives.
Exactly. Imagine you have a goal you really want to achieve. By vividly visualizing yourself achieving that goal, feeling the emotions associated with that success, you're essentially aligning your inner microcosm with the desired outcome in the outer macrocosm.
So it's about creating a strong mental resonance with the reality we want to experience.
Precisely. And practices like meditation can be incredibly helpful here. By quieting the mind and tapping into a state of inner stillness, we're essentially mirroring the underlying stillness and order of the cosmos.
It's like tuning ourselves to a higher frequency so we can receive clearer guidance and inspiration.
And this can lead to a greater sense of clarity, intuition, and inner harmony, which then ripples out into our actions and interactions with the world.
That makes a lot of sense. What about other holistic practices like yoga or energy work? How do those fit into this framework?
Well, many of those practices focus on restoring balance within the individual's energy system. The idea is to harmonize our personal energetic vibrations with the natural rhythms and energy flows of the universe.
So it's about aligning the microcosm, our own energy systems, with the macrocosm, the universal energy flow.
Right. By addressing blockages or imbalances in our personal energy, we can create a more harmonious flow, which can lead to greater health, well-being, and a sense of interconnectedness.
Okay, that's a really interesting perspective. Now, the Kybalion talks about this concept of the all. Where does that fit into the principle of correspondence?
Right. So in the Kybalion, the all refers to the ultimate fundamental reality underlying the entire universe. It's the source of everything. Think of it as the substance from which everything else is made.
But how can we understand something so vast and all-encompassing?
The Kybalion actually emphasizes that the true nature of the all is ultimately unknowable to our finite human minds.
Because it's beyond our limited perception and understanding.
Exactly. It would be like an ant trying to comprehend the workings of the internet. Any attempt by us to fully define or grasp the all is always going to fall short.
So we're dealing with the very limits of human understanding here.
Right. The Kybalion even distinguishes between religion, which is described as a more intuitive, experiential connection to the all, and theology, which tries to impose human-like attributes and concepts onto something that's ultimately beyond comprehension.
It's like trying to fit the infinite into a finite box, isn't it?
Exactly. And the same goes for philosophy versus metaphysics. Philosophy explores the knowable, while metaphysics attempts to grapple with the unknowable, which is ultimately just as limiting as trying to define the all through theology.
So if we can't fully know it, are there at least some fundamental truths about the all that we can accept?
Yes, and the Kybalion outlines a few key axioms that can guide our understanding. First, the all must be all that truly is. It encompasses everything. Second, the all must be infinite, boundless in time and space, absolute in power. And third, the all must be immutable, unchangeable in its essence.
Okay, but then how do we reconcile that with the fact that our universe is full of finite, ever-changing things? How can the finite exist within the infinite and unchanging?
It is a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the Kybalion acknowledges this difficulty. It suggests that the resolution lies in a deeper understanding that's explored later in his teachings.
So something to ponder for sure. Now, the Kybalion argues that the all can't simply be matter or energy as we typically understand them. Why not?
The reasoning is that a source cannot produce something greater than itself. Matter, as we know it, is essentially inert. It doesn't have consciousness or life inherent in it.
So it wouldn't make sense for an unconscious source to create a conscious universe.
Right. And even if we think of energy as the fundamental source, the kinds of energy the science studies, light, heat, gravity, those aren't conscious or alive either.
So if the all is the source of consciousness and life, it must be something more than just inert matter or unconscious energy.
Exactly. And that's why the Kybalion proposes the idea of living mind or spirit as a more fitting description of the all. This is beyond our limited human understanding of mind. It's an infinite living mind, sometimes referred to as spirit in various traditions.
So the all is like a cosmic consciousness, a mind that encompasses everything.
You could think of it that way. And this brings us to one of the most profound statements in the Kybalion. The universe is mental, held in the mind of the all.
Wow, that's a really powerful statement. So the entire universe, with all its galaxies, stars, planets, and even us, it's all a mental creation within this infinite mind of the all.
That's the core idea. While the all itself is spirit, this infinite living mind, the universe as we perceive it is a manifestation within that mind, a kind of cosmic thought.
Okay, but how does this infinite mind create without needing any outside materials or somehow dividing itself?
Think about how you create mental images in your own mind. You can imagine a scene or an object without needing any physical materials or splitting your own consciousness.
So our thoughts are like mini universes that we create in our own minds.
Exactly. And the Kybalion suggests that the all, on an infinitely grander scale, creates the universe through a similar mental process. It's a cosmic projection of thought.
And this creation isn't just a one-time event, right? The Kybalion talks about countless other universes, countless other worlds existing within the mind of the all.
Right, it's not just one universe, but an infinite number of universes constantly being created and dissolved within the eternal mind of the all.
So the universe we know is just one tiny bubble in this infinite ocean of creation.
And the lifespans of entire universes are like fleeting moments to the all. It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
It definitely challenges our usual notions of time and scale. Now, the Kybalion also introduces this idea of the principle of gender in relation to creation. And this isn't about biological sex, right?
No, not at all. In this context, gender refers to a fundamental principle of creation that operates on all levels of reality. It's the principle of generation, the interplay of energies that bring things into being.
So what are these masculine and feminine principles?
The masculine principle is associated with will, force, the projection of energy. Think of it like the seed, the initial impulse that sets things in motion. The feminine principle, on the other hand, represents receptivity, the nurturing and formative aspect that allows that seed to grow and manifest. Think of it like the fertile soil.
So creation is born from the interplay of these two forces.
Exactly. And this principle is reflected in all levels of creation, from the formation of galaxies to the birth of a child.
And how does this play out within us as individuals?
Well, think about your own mind. There's the conscious, active part of your mind, the I, which is associated with will and direction. And then there's the subconscious, the me, which is more receptive, creative, and intuitive. This is a reflection of the masculine and feminine principles at play within your own consciousness.
It's like the observer and the generator working together to create our thoughts and experiences.
Right. And understanding this interplay can give you a deeper understanding of your own creative process and how to harness the power of both your conscious and subconscious mind.
Now, the Kybalion also mentions these countless other worlds and higher planes of life existing within the mind of the all. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, this gets into the concept of planes of correspondence, which essentially suggests that there are different levels or dimensions of reality all interconnected and mirroring each other.
So it's not just one flat plane of existence, but multiple layers stacked on top of each other, each with its own unique characteristics and inhabitants.
Precisely. The Kybalion talks about the great physical plane, which is the material world we experience with our senses, the great mental plane, which encompasses different levels of mind and consciousness, and the great spiritual plane, which represents the highest levels of being.
But these planes aren't physically separate locations, right?
No, not in the traditional sense. It's more like different frequencies or vibrations of reality. Imagine a radio dial. Each station broadcasts on a different frequency, and you need to tune your radio to that specific frequency to receive the signal.
So these planes are like different radio stations broadcasting on different frequencies of reality.
Exactly. And the higher the frequency, the more refined and subtle the reality. So the great spiritual plane, vibrates at a much higher frequency than the great physical plane.
So matter is essentially energy vibrating at a lower frequency, and spirit is energy vibrating at a much, much higher frequency.
That's the essence of it. And the beings that inhabit each plane are also vibrating at a frequency that corresponds to that plane.
So there could be beings on these higher planes that we can't even perceive with our senses because they vibrate at frequencies beyond our range of detection.
That's the idea. The Kybalion talks about beings like angels, archangels, and other spiritual entities existing on these higher planes.
So this entire hierarchy of planes, from the dense material realm to the subtle spiritual realms, it's all interconnected and governed by the same fundamental principles.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of the principle of correspondence. It provides a framework for understanding the interconnectedness of everything in the universe.
This has been an incredible exploration, but I want to bring it back to our listener. How can they actually use this understanding in their lives?
Well, one of the most powerful practices is conscious self-reflection. Take some time to observe the recurring patterns and challenges in your life.
Like those things that keep popping up no matter how hard you try to avoid them.
Exactly. Ask yourself, what are these patterns trying to teach me? How might they be reflecting larger universal themes or cycles?
It's like looking for the as above, so below in your own life.
Right. And here's a little visualization you can try. Imagine yourself as a miniature galaxy. Think about different aspects of your life as stars and planets within that galaxy. Which areas are bright and thriving? Which areas feel dim or turbulent?
And as you visualize, imagine a flow of cosmic energy moving through your inner galaxy, seeking to restore balance and harmony.
And ask yourself, what small, intentional changes can you make to bring your personal life more into alignment with these universal principles of balance and harmony?
So it's about becoming more aware of these patterns, these reflections of the macrocosm in our own lives, and then consciously choosing to align ourselves with the higher vibrations, the higher principles that we want to experience.
Precisely. The principle of correspondence is a reminder that we're not isolated individuals. We're part of this vast, interconnected web of existence, and understanding this can empower us to create more fulfilling and meaningful lives.
It really is a beautiful and empowering concept. Well, as we wrap up today, we'll leave you with this final thought. As you go about your day, pay attention to those seemingly random events or coincidences that happen. Could they be tiny reflections of larger universal patterns at play? It's a question to ponder, an invitation to continue your own deep dive into the mysteries of the universe and your place within it.